just to
Extra creamy. Extra creamy.
check.
Extra creamy.
Check.
Extra creamy.
Test. Check. Test. You can hear yourself.
A little bit.
Okay.
I mean, I don't care about hearing myself. It's just, is it sounding all right?
Yeah, it sounds all right for me. 'Cause I,
Ha, ha.
all right.
Ha, ha.
That should,
All right.
yeah, that should be All right, let me figure out how to All right, hey, welcome to my podcast. Why aren't you more famous? Today, I'm joined by my guest, Martin Urbano.
Thanks for having me.
What's up, Martin? That was a crazy intro.
Yeah, that was awesome.
How you doing, man?
Doing all right? Yeah. How's it going?
Good. I was listening to your special on the way over here.
How does it sound?
It sounds good.
Yeah, okay,
It sounds good. It was fun to listen to because I feel like I've seen you do a lot of those jokes before, but it was
Sure.
cool to like hear them in the context of like a full hour, hear what you changed, what you kept, you know. So yeah, for the listener, I'd say Martin is one of my favorite comedians. Makes me laugh harder
Hell
than
yeah.
almost anyone. Great joke writer, great performer, and I'm just really happy to be able to sit down and talk with him.
I appreciate that. Thanks so much. What are we talking about?
We're talking about why you're not more famous.
Oh, man.
Why have my grandparents never heard of you?
Oh, wow. No, this is, that's a big question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of, probably, lots of reasons. Lots of reasons. Do you have specific questions? That's like a giant, that's,
Yeah, so that's the basic premise of the podcast. But I also just want to it's just an excuse to like actually get to sit down and talk with people that I otherwise wouldn't be able to have like longer conversations with.
right.
And so
if you asked me for coffee, I would refuse.
yeah, exactly.
Are there two microphones around? They get out of my face.
People can hear us talk while we have coffee. Then that's fine.
Thanks for this coffee, by the way.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for doing this. I feel like it feels like an appropriate gift for the guest. Okay, so let's start with where you're from, Texas, right?
Yes.
And you started doing stand up when you were like 17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd you know that?
I think you told me before. I think I've asked you before. Yeah. So
Are we going sans
I think
headphones now?
I'm gonna go ahead.
Okay.
I think I can see that it's recording. I can hear
Okay,
it.
great.
It for some reason it sounds louder than usual, but I'll be able to edit that.
Cool.
So yeah, I think let's do.
We're getting
headphones.
real now.
We're getting real now. Hey, let's stop. Let's turn this off. Let's just.
yeah. The best podcast is one that was never recorded.
There is no podcast. So you started doing stand up when you were 17.
17, when I was in high school. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd wanted to do it when I was even younger.
How old would you say?
I got like really into it when I was like 15, because like around like maybe like 14, whenever you're a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
I got really into theater, and I really
Okay.
like performing monologues,
Uh-huh.
specifically comedic monologues, and specifically ones that I wrote myself.
Right.
And they're
which
like,
is-
that's
that is
stand-up
stand-up.
comedy.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's
oh, okay.
there's a
So
name for that. Yeah.
I got really into it, and then around like 15, I started writing jokes, and I was like trying to go up when I was 16.
Uh-huh.
But they wouldn't let me because I was a child, and most places were like, you can't be in this 21 and up venue.
But 17 they would let you.
17, I ended up finding both a like open mic when I was like visiting Dallas, like with like my family. I was like on a family trip, and I begged them to take me to an open mic at a
Hyenas?
place, Backdoor Comedy
Okay.
Club.
I think no, I don't know.
It's like it was like in a Hyatt or something. It was like in a hotel. It was like this side room. Honestly, like a really fun little spot. And that was like
Yeah.
my very first open mic, and it was like right when I was like 17. And then I also found a comedy scene in South Texas, where I'm from, Brownsville, Texas. It's like very deep south, the very bottom tip. And I found some people who put me on stage, and like at like theaters, like a comedy theater type thing. So it was like different vibes than like a bar.
Mm-hmm.
And then like at certain bars, they would just be like, "Oh, he's cool," and then they would just put X's on my hands, and I would get to perform.
So who were your favorite comedians like before you started?
Steve Martin is still my like go-to.
Yeah.
Bo Burnham I really liked. Zach Galifianakis, Anthony Jeselnik.
Yeah.
Kind of like everybody that you could probably parse from my
Yeah,
stand-up that
I mean
like,
every
yeah.
single one of them, which are also like those are some of my favorite comics as well. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, every one of those I'm like, I could see it.
Yeah.
I could see, but not in a way where you're like derivative, but just in a way where I'm
There's
like,
an argument to be made, but thank you. Yeah. Dimitri Martin was kind of like the first like big one where I was like, whoa, you can do like all kinds of things in stand-up. And Mitch Hedberg was, I love Mitch Hedberg.
a lot of, and I mean, I think what those guys all have in common is that I think you also have in common is the jokes and then the like not the type of like stage persona where you're like, it's not necessarily like confessional and like revealing
Sure.
who you are. So how did you kind of like craft your persona on stage? Was that always there from the beginning?
I mean, I was just like ripping them off. I feel like, I don't know, who are some of your favorites? Like who are like some of your big ones that would,
I'd
before you
say,
started? How long you been doing it for?
I started about 8 years ago.
8 years ago,
So I'm
okay,
28. I started when I was 20.
So who were like your people when you were 20?
I'd say Bo Burnham was
Sure.
a big one.
He's
John
great.
John Mulaney,
John Mulaney was
Pete
funny.
Holmes, Mike Birbiglia,
Totally.
Gary
Okay.
Goldman.
Yeah.
So there was sort of like that generation of comedy, which was like it was also around the time. How old are you?
30.
Okay, yeah, so we're around the same age.
Yeah.
So it was like around when I was like late middle school, early high school. Like that's when I was getting into comedy, and so it
Right.
was just like a lot of people that were coming up at that time. And then also like Steve Martin was someone that like because my parents were fans of his.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
they showed me Steve Martin and Monty Python.
Oh, that's
At like a
amazing.
pretty early age, and so that like kind of informed it. But yeah, I think the biggest ones for me would be like Mulaney, Birbiglia, and Pete Holmes.
They're great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those. I mean, everybody in that generation.
Yeah,
I really
it
like,
really is a great generation of
Anybody who was
comedy.
on You Made It Weird.
Yes,
I was like, oh yeah,
exactly.
I love this.
That
This
was
is, like,
that was
this is my
I,
stuff.
I would credit that podcast as being like the like final step towards me like actually doing stand up.
Oh wow.
Because it was when I was a sophomore in college that I started listening to it. Was also around the same time Crashing came out, and so just like hearing Pete Holmes talk about getting into comedy with other comedians. And then like also watching like a fictionalized version of his like origin story was like, all right, I think I can do this, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, his podcast was also big for me. I mean, just like as I was trying to get into it and
Yeah.
not really knowing how and not being in an area, like my parents did not know Steve Martin did stand up. You know, like my
Okay.
parents were not very comedy. They liked like Chris Rock and like George Lopez, but like
Yeah.
they didn't really know what I was talking about. So that podcast really helped me. Like there was practical advice there.
Yeah.
And one, I feel like it was I think Patton Oswalt on one episode was talking about like his favorite comedy towns, and one of them was like Austin,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, so I should go there.
Which
And
is
then that's
so
why I
cool.
ended up going there.
Yeah.
And, like, I aimed for Austin before moving to New York.
When
in
did you move to Austin?
2013.
So that was how long have you been doing stand up at that point?
Like I guess like 2-3 years.
Yeah.
2 years.
So you like graduated high school and then
I wanted to go straight to Austin
Okay.
and just do stand up. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I wanted to work at Target and do stand up at night.
Why
I don't know
Target?
why. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's because like if I had to guess, it's because that was just like a job in Brownsville that was like
yeah.
available, and I was like, I like Target.
Yeah.
So,
Like, they have funny
I should
shirts.
work at this Target. Yeah, they got good shirts. Graphic
what
tees.
shirt are you wearing now?
Oh, this is a Kid Cudi tour.
Oh, that's sick.
T-shirt that
I was-
got. I went with Joey Dardano to his concert.
Kid
at Park
Cudi is
Place.
also somebody that
Yeah.
not a comic, but somebody I was a big fan of.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
like that one song, and he's a good actor.
Yeah, he is good. He's good on Comedy Bang Bang.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But okay, so back to
Target. I wanted to work at Target and go and just. I did not want to go to college, but
Yeah.
my parents forced me to, and that was like sort of the eternal fight. Like in my high school time period,
Mm-hmm.
was like it was just every day, just kind of like I don't want to do that. I want to do comedy, and they're like, that makes 0 sense.
Yeah.
They ended up being kind of right. I will say they weren't wrong, but I knew what I was doing more or less, and anyway. I ended up going to college. I lost the battle there. Like, you have to at least try. So I went to college. I had 2 options, basically. One was to go to Austin and go to UT, University of Texas
Yeah.
at Austin, which is like they had a good film program. and I got a full ride more or less to the film program there at UT. Or I could go to Stephen F. Austin State University in Nacogdoches, Texas, which is very East Texas. Its nickname is Nowhere. It's a small college town in the forest. But my high school sweetheart, who we were long distance for a year, was going there. And I was like, if I had my top choice was to go to Austin and not go to college.
Yeah.
But between the two second choices, I'm like, I'll have to work this. This was my logic. I'd have to work too hard to maintain those scholarships in Austin that I wouldn't be able to do stand up. So I'd rather not do that. I'd rather just instead, if I'm being forced to go to college, I will go where my girlfriend is. So I went there.
That is like such 18-year-old thinking.
It does not. I look back, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
It's like you could be in the city that you want to be in with a full ride to a very good film pretty close to comedy.
Very close. And knowing what I know now, like it would have been so helpful.
Yeah.
Especially once I did stand up and I got the opportunities. Like I wish I had a little bit more know-how. Like if I was like in a film program and I would have written a script. Like I would have like had to for class write a script. And I would have had one for when people were asking. And instead I was like, no, I don't have any of that. I don't know how to do any of that. I just know how to do stand up.
Yeah,
I dropped out after one semester, and then I went to.
And then you went to Austin. And your parents were cool with that?
Nah, they were really angry. Well, what happened was I dropped out, and they were like, I told them over. So it was like August. I go, and after 1 month, I'm like, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
So starting in September, I just stopped going to classes, except for my creative writing class, which I really liked. And then all the rest, I was just like, I hate these. I don't want to go.
This is a month in.
A month
this
in.
Is
I was just
beginning
like,
of the semester.
This isn't for me. This isn't for me. There were like two things. One was like I was taking like English 2. I had like done like the AP test and like gotten like English 1 credit, and so English 2 was the class, and I had to do like a plagiarism paper. Did you went to college?
I did go.
Where'd you go?
I went to the University of Vermont.
Okay,
Also,
how was that?
It was fun. I studied film. It's not a great film program.
Okay.
It's not like UT, but it was good. It was good because I was able to start stand up in Vermont, and
That's
I think that there was a like part of me that, especially once I started doing stand up, that really just thought about dropping out, moving to New York to pursue stand up, which I'm glad that I didn't, just because I don't think I was like mature enough to like fully live on my own in a city and like work, which like I'm still like I'm a bad employee, it's like you actually really need a job if you're doing comedy. I
mean, yeah.
So I studied film, and I met some cool people. I think the biggest like positive coming out of it was that there are a lot of people from Vermont doing stand up here, and so it kind of gave me a little bit more of a community entering the New York stand-up scene than most people have. And you have that a little bit from Austin as well.
A little bit. Before I moved, not too many people had come from Austin to New York or LA. And now years later, things are extra
way
crazy
different,
where people are moving from New York to Austin, but that's a separate thing. But no, I mean, I think it's good to not sacrifice the college years. If I could do everything all over again, I probably wouldn't change anything, whatever. But I would look at that and be like, oh, that would have been nice to have that like college experience and that little like that group of people. And a lot of people that I do know from Austin, like friends of mine who are like basically my same age, were in UT like while they were doing the show. So I was just like, man, I guess I could have.
Yes, you could have done that.
Just done it. But did you take English class?
I did, yes.
Did you have to do this plagiarism paper? Does it sound familiar?
It does not sound familiar.
I mean, probably if you just like did the full college thing, you're like, that was just like something I did. I don't know. But for me, it was like one of the only things I did. So I remember it. It was like read this like plagiarism like handbook or something, like what plagiarism is or isn't.
Oh, actually, I do remember this.
Yeah, and then you have to like answer like mini essay questions about like what is from the quoting using the book and saying what it is. And I was just like, so I have to kind of like plagiarize the plagiarized bit. I hate this. I hate this so much. And I just remember being so frustrated not understanding what this was. Yeah. Like, what is the point of this assignment? I don't understand. That was like one of the moments I was like, I don't think this is for me. And then in my speech class, I was taking honors speech. I had to do one where they were like, compare yourself to an inanimate object. And so I did. I think I did something like, it was like a piece of driftwood or something. It was like very dramatic. Yeah. I was like, I'm like a piece of driftwood. And then I did it and I did well. I got like laughs or whatever, and it was good. But then afterwards, the feedback I got was that was more like a monologue than a speech. And I was like, what's the point of any of this? I hate this. And then I got really upset and I stopped going to any of my classes.
And so then you moved to Austin. So what happened to the girlfriend?
So I stopped going to classes, and then Thanksgiving I told my parents I didn't want to go back, and they were like, well, at least you gave it the old college try, and you had been getting you got all A's. I was like lying to my mom, like I was like calling her like most days and being like, oh yeah, classes are great, I'm getting A's, it's awesome, this plagiarism paper makes total sense to me, yeah, I'm doing all these monologues, it's awesome. And so they were like, you got all A's. I'm like, yeah, sure. And they're like, okay, well, you tried. Christmas break comes and I'm like getting ready to like leave to Austin, and for some reason they like find out that I like just got a bunch of F's because I was just like burning the bridge. I was like, I didn't know how to withdraw or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I didn't. It was a combination of not knowing much and then also being like stubborn and also like having nobody to guide me. It was like a complete mix of everything, and I was. They got very upset that I had all F's, and they were like, "We're not going to co-sign a lease for you to like go to Austin. We don't trust you anymore." I was like, oh. And so I ended up going to Denton, Texas, which is like outside of Dallas, or an hour away from Dallas.
I know, what is there school in Denton?
Yeah. It's University of Texas Denton, I think.
Is there Texas? No, where's Texas Tech?
Oh, I think that might be
that's in Lubbock.
Lubbock, yes.
Yeah, that's where my cousin went.
Oh, okay. My
I don't know. Maybe I know somebody.
Great English teacher went there.
Okay.
Yeah. He talked about it a lot.
Wait, maybe
Mr.
is my
Janucci.
cousin's wife from Denton? Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't really matter.
Let's call her.
let's just derail the whole podcast.
So I ended up going to Denton because that girlfriend, her brother lived there because he had like gone to school, was getting his master's maybe or something. He was like, you can crash on my couch. There's like a local comedy scene here, and you can like drive to Dallas. And then I showed up there and I was like, oh, I'm not making an hour drive. I did it like one time to do like an open mic, and they just like put me on at the very end, like 3-4 hours in or something like something crazy.
Wow.
At the very end for like 2 people, and I just like bombed and then had to drive an hour back at like midnight, and I had to like work the next day. I was like, oh, I am so sad right now. So I never went back to Dallas, but there's like a little scene there.
Yeah.
So I was there for like whatever a semester would be. And then my girlfriend and I broke up, and I was like, what am I doing with my life? And I moved back home for the summer. And then I was so depressed around the house, and my parents were like, all right, fine, good on.
Yeah. Like,
do something. This is sad.
Yeah, this is, if you're not going to do anything, just leave. Yeah. Okay, so you went to Austin. Who did you, who were you coming up with in Austin?
I mean, of the people that moved to New York, Andrew Dismukes probably and Devin Walker were like the ones. Devin started a little bit after me, but Andrew started kind of like right when I had just moved to Austin. So yeah, he's probably the biggest Austin guy right now.
Devin's the first person that I met doing comedy in New York.
Oh wow!
It was before I moved here. I came just to visit for like a weekend and went to an open mic at Halyard's, and he was like sitting at the bar writing, and I was like just very nervous, but I was like, I'm gonna say hi. I was like, hey, like, you're doing the mic, and he was like, yeah, he was super nice, but. So and now he's on SNL.
That's right.
Good for him.
Yeah.
And Michael Good,
my good friend Michael Good. Yeah, my friend Kent Juliff also, who just started. He was doing comedy, moved out here, didn't really do it, and just started getting back into it. And we started going to like a mic together a couple months ago. Yeah.
So what was the scene like in Austin when you started?
And I was just reminiscing about this with Kent. It was nice to have a scene that it felt like, I mean, there were probably its own problems, and as a 19, 20-year-old kid, like I just like didn't exactly fully understand it. But I think it was like a very healthy scene in that there was like a club, there was the main club, and then there was another smaller club that were both like their own entities, and then the big club, like they started doing a festival, Moon Tower, like they had that, and they were all connected to it. And there was a funniest person in Austin contest once a year, and it's like everybody could participate, and it was like a showcase that would be like packed out, and there were like local showcases. Like there was like really a lot of good stuff going on, a lot of variety in the acts. I mean, definitely a little bit more on the like artsier side than necessarily clubby, but like there were some club comedians, and there were like people who hit it more down the middle, but it was like a nice healthy scene.
And did you ever win the Austin's Funniest?
No, but for the first year I was there, I just could not get booked on a single damn show. Not even a single shitty bar show. And I had already been doing it.
Yeah.
And I had seen like friends of, Andrew, my other friend Andrew Clarkson and Kent, like they were starting to get booked on stuff. And I was like, and we're like all friends and we do the mics. And I would do all right at the mics, but I just couldn't get booked on the thing. And then at that contest, I like did well and made it to the semifinals. And then people were like, okay. And then I started getting booked on some shitty bar shows, and from there it started to pick up.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, maybe I made a huge mistake. A year spent in Austin, and I am not getting anything anywhere.
Do you feel like you got a lot better during that time? Like looking back on
Probably.
it, yeah.
You always get better.
Were you doing like a similar style to what you do now, or were you ever like trying anything different? Like,
I think I was like less dark. Well, no, that's not true. I think it was just a very bad version of what I'm doing now.
Yeah. So you kind of had you kind of early on like had an idea of the type of comedy that you wanted to do. It just took you a while to like get good at it.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to be like, I had like creative ideas and like dirty and dark and silly and making fun of hacky stuff and then just like weird stuff. Like it's all, it was all there.
Well, that's what one of the things in listening to your album, like on the way here. And it's just like, that's one of the things that I love about your stand up is the way that you make fun of hacky comedy. Like just the amount of times that you go, you can't say anything anymore, and then say just something that is so offensive.
Sure.
And it's like, and I feel like your comedy and, kind of a lot of the people that you were citing as influences, like Jeselnik especially, it's like that is the proof that you actually can say anything.
Right.
If it's funny. Where like you have jokes where you're sort of like playing a character of a pedophile, and it's like people are on board with it because they know it's a joke and they know it's funny. Yeah. So how have you been back to Austin recently?
Well, I taped my special there.
Okay, where'd you tape it?
Stateside Theater at the Paramount.
Okay. How would you say that? I don't know how much time you were back there for, but like, how would you say the scene's changed now? Because it seems, I mean, I haven't been. I don't know. So. I have family in Dallas, so I haven't spent really any time in Austin.
Sure.
As an adult, haven't done comedy there. But how would you say that the scene's changed? Because it sounds different from the outside looking in.
And here's the thing: I'm still outside looking in. Like I was there for Moon Tower. Like I was there for the comedy festival, and the comedy festival, that's a different thing than what a normal what the scene is. So I don't super know, and like I have my own thoughts and theories about it, but it's like, and it's, I mean, that mothership is it's like right there on the busy 6th Street, like it is like, and it's like shiny and flashy, and it's like down the block from the Velveeta Room, which is a place I used to perform at, and this is, it's huge and it's glitzy, and I guess it's like sold out every night or whatever, line around the block kind of thing.
You didn't perform there at all?
No, that opened up in lockdown, and I was
back. when you were back, you didn't.
I was back for the festival. Yeah, I did my special taping. I did Stamptown shows, and that was it. Yeah, I didn't pick up any extra spots, and I just haven't been back there.
Yeah,
I don't really have a reason to go back there without like doing like a headlining weekend or something like that, because I would do it for the money, and I don't have family who lives there anymore. Or anything.
Was your family still in Texas?
They're in Texas, but I'm from like South Texas, so it's like there's not really.
So what was? You got siblings?
Yeah, little sister. Yeah.
Little sister. You guys close?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was? Where are your parents? Are they from Mexico or they're?
My mom's from Mexico.
Mom's from Mexico.
Yeah.
Dad's American.
Dad's American. I think in a technical sense, I have a theory that my dad's side of the family just lived in Brownsville, like since it was Mexico, and then it just became America, and they're like, we're not gonna move. Yeah.
So what was? I'm trying to think of the way to phrase the question, because you said that they didn't really understand you being into comedy. Like, what did they expect you to be into, or like, did they try and like push anything on you in terms of like, because they didn't.
Even though I was bad at college, I think I was like considered smart. Or whatever. I was like top 5%.
Well, it sounds. I mean, if you got into UT Austin. Mm-hmm. Like in the film, like you clearly like were like a good enough student.
Yeah. I think they wanted me to do be a doctor, a lawyer, whatever.
Yeah,
else.
just the classics. Yeah.
Very yeah. I don't think I express. That's the thing. It's like I didn't express much interest in anything outside of comedy, so there was never really one that were like, "But you really wanted to be a scientist, or
Right.
whatever." And I'm like, when I was like 5, I said, when I my mom still brings this up. She's like, when you were 5, you said that one day I want to grow up and be a scientist and create a machine so that you'll never ever die. And she was like, "What happened to that?" And I was like, "You should have told me. That's insane. That's not a thing that can happen. That's an unhealthy obsession. That's a fear of death manifesting at 5."
That's so funny. I'm just because I'm imagining like if she was just honest with you as a little kid, just like that's a really fucking stupid idea, Martin. That's not possible. I'm gonna die.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. And so, how long were you doing stand up in Austin before moving here?
3 years.
3 years. So you you moved here
2016.
2016.
Just in time to vote for Trump.
So what were your like early New York years like? You've been here almost 10 years now.
It's 8.5.
Yeah.
Technically. Yeah. It was. I love it here. It's been great. I was prepared. I had a 3-year plan.
Yeah.
I had a 3-year plan coming in, and I think it mimicked Austin, and is really what it was. First year, I thought and prepared myself mentally for. First year, I'm just gonna eat shit for 1 full year.
Yeah.
Just grind at the mics, get no attention. Everybody's gonna hate me, and it's gonna be brutal. First year. Second year, shitty bar shows. I'm gonna get some shitty bar shows, and they're gonna be like not great, but that'll show progress from doing the mics, and now I'm like doing this. Third year, I should start getting some actual things, and then at the end of year 3, I have to assess whether that happened or not, and should I keep pursuing this or try something different? Maybe try LA, maybe try quitting. I didn't really know. I was
Yeah.
like, this is my 3-year plan. And then in the first year, I like ended up doing really well. Like my ex, we'd been a different ex, different long distance for a year, different moved to where she was living, where she was at school. She was doing comedy and was like, here are like the cool mics and like here's some cool people. So that was like a good like step in. And I was just like doing pretty all right. Like I'd already kind of like made some friends in Austin, had some connections, did well enough here. I got booked on shows. And my first year, I auditioned for JFL New Faces, and I got it. And the booker at that time was also the booker for Kimmel, and so I did. And she was like, "I just sent your tape without asking you to Jimmy," and he said he loved it, and you had to take out one joke, and the rest is perfect.
Which joke did you have to take out?
It was a joke. It was like a section of joke. It was like I'll tell it to you. I don't love it, but it's like fine, I guess. They say that my friends, they say I have an old soul because I'm dying of early onset Alzheimer's. And then I say a different joke, and then I say, my friends, they say I have an old soul because I'm dying. And then
That's so interesting. That's the joke you had to take out.
Yeah.
Because you do a whole bit in that set about being a registered sex offender.
Yeah, that was good though.
Like, that's fine.
That was good.
They're like, no, actually, all of our bosses are sex offenders. They love that stuff.
Yeah, that's chill.
Yeah, that's so funny. No, and your Kimmel set is great, and I think I think I might have seen you at like a bar show when I first moved here, and then I think I liked your. So then I think I watched your Kimmel set, and it's good. So and then you got JFL, Kimmel, and you auditioned for SNL.
I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
How many
Still
times?
waiting to hear back. No, just the one time.
Just the one time.
Just the one time, 2017. Yeah.
Just to be a cast member.
I mean, I think they use that audition to get writers,
Right,
too,
sort of like if we can tell you're a good writer from your stuff.
and they were like,
were
we
like,
can't
this
see
is not-
anything in you. Yeah.
And that was before Andrew was there.
I auditioned the same year.
Same
as him.
year.
The same year as him. The same year as my friend Steven Castillo.
He became a writer.
They both became writers.
Right.
And then Andrew got promoted to cast
yeah.
after writing for a little bit. And you know what? That was my like. I look at that moment in understanding like jealousy.
Yeah.
And it was like and bitterness in this industry. And I'm very happy that my instinct was when I found out that Andrew got it and I like hadn't heard it about anything on my end, and it was like, oh, Andrew was cast, and it's like, well, I saw him start comedy.
Yeah.
And we started, more or less at the same time. And it was like I was really sad for like 5 minutes. And then I was like, hey, good for Andrew.
Yeah.
And then I was like able to move on from that, and I was like, okay, cool. Thank God that
Yeah.
wasn't like.
I think that's. I mean,
and he's also good. So it's
yeah,
like,
he's
that
great.
is
He's
helpful.
turned out
that
to
it
be
wasn't like,
he's
not
turned
even
out to
funny,
be
yeah.
one of the best
Yeah.
cast members like currently on the show.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, which I'm sure you also probably would have done well. It's hard. It's always hard to say, but I also think, I mean, and kind of like hearing it, it's like, and so how old were you at that time?
2017, 23, 22, 23, something
Yeah,
like
so
that.
pretty young, and like it's crazy. Just thinking like, it almost feels like you had to not get something when like you got Kimmel and
Sure.
JFL, and then it's like you had to, yeah. So and then what was like from there on? What were sort of like the next steps? I don't know. I'm trying to think how to phrase it.
I mean, it was like the years following were just a push and pull of me really wanting to quit my job. I was working at this like moving company, answering emails, like scheduling the moves, just the office of this moving company. And it was like flexible, so I could still do it with comedy. And then I would like be like, okay, now I got a big gig and I have to quit. I can quit this job. And then I would like finish that gig, and then I'd have to go back to the job because I needed more money. You know, it's like it was just a push and pull of like I would get cool things. Like I performed at Bonnaroo, and they treated me like a rock star, and it was like awesome. I gotta like go do shows like that, festivals like that, and then back to the moving company, and then it was like, oh, I got this like gig writing for National Lampoon Radio Hour, the podcast, and it was like, yeah, I know, right? A lot of people didn't, but it was like a great cast of people. It was like Cola Scola was like the head writer, and Joe Firestone was like the co-head writer, and it was like a ton of people: Meg Stalter, Alex English, River Ramirez, like a lot of really cool people, and me, and it was like a good crew, and it was like fun, exciting. And then I finished that job, and then I was like, okay, back to the moving company. It's like just a lot of push and pull. After that, cool things would happen, but then it's like, well, that of course wasn't going to go anywhere. It was like it was a scripted sketch podcast. It's like that is a very specific thing. I don't think it's sustainable.
I mean, I'm like, I would consider myself to be like a comedy nerd, and even I'm like, that's a bit much. That's a bit much for me.
Yeah.
And then you wrote for Fallon. You're not still writing for Fallon?
No.
Well,
That was like 6 months.
Tell me the story of that.
So that was like post COVID, post lockdown, where I was just like unemployed. Also, like right before lockdown, literally in March of 2020, I was like Netflix was doing their own version, quote unquote, of Last Comic Standing.
Oh,
They're
yeah?
like, but it's like a cool version or whatever, and it wasn't. But that was how it was pitched.
Yeah.
And so they were like, clear out your full month. We're gonna get like you and like 20. It was like 24 comedians to go to LA and like do this stand-up competition. There were like 3 judges. It's kind of like The Voice or whatever, where they're like, they hear you and then they like pick they each pick 4 people. So it's going to be cut in half the amount of comedians.
There's still somebody that they're like turned away like in The Voice.
Yeah.
And there's somebody that goes, I know what you're thinking.
That's great. That's funny. Yeah. This guy looks like. So that was like, it was like some competition, and then they had the first round, and I lost. I immediately got eliminated, and they were like, I was like, I had cleared out a month of my calendar, so I had 0 shows in New York. My ex, who we were still together, at the time, but she was in Hawaii with her family, a trip that I turned down.
Oh my God.
So that I could do this thing. And they were like, okay, time to fly you back. And I was like, can you please just send me back home to my mommy and daddy? Because I am so sad to just be alone in New York with nothing to do.
And this was in March?
This was in March of 2020. I flew. They're like, okay, fine, Jesus, like calm down, just like crying or whatever. Just like, please. They send me back to Brownsville. The next day, the country goes in lockdown.
So you kind of won that way. It's like they're like they cleared out everyone's month, everyone's month.
Yeah.
I also was on March 12th. I was going home for the weekend.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then ended up that weekend lasted a year and a half.
Shit. Yeah.
But so do you remember who else was on that show?
Kinda.
Not to make this like the name dropping hour.
Sure. I'm gonna try to remember who. Neil Nanda, R.I.P.
R.I.P. Funny guy.
He moved. He advanced. I'm trying to remember who else did. I think Shane Torres might have been on it. Maybe he wasn't. Thinking of a different thing we did. Matthew Broussard also was eliminated, I think. Yeah, we were commiserating about that. Yeah, I don't remember. It feels just like a honestly, like pre-lockdown does feel like a different sort
It
of
really does, yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So were you doing stand up or anything during COVID?
I did like a Twitch stream game show called Who Wants 269 with Martin Urbano.
Oh yeah, I think I remember.
Yeah, that was my, and I'm still working on bringing it back in some capacity. But that was like a weekly thing I did.
Of that?
It's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but I do it,
And it's $2.69.
Yeah, each correct answer is worth that.
Oh,
and
okay.
it's coming out of like my own pocket.
Yeah, that's
so I'm like, I don't want that. So the trivia is like super hard because I don't want to give away any money.
Can you give some examples of questions you asked on that?
A question like more like Annie Hot, Woody Allen dated which member of his family or something like that. And it's like a daughter, stepdaughter, or great-great-grandmother, that kind of thing. Yeah. This man was a genius. Albert Einstein married which member of his family? There was a lot of incest
questions.
Yeah.
That's yeah, you got that great Woody Allen joke on your album.
No, which
like it's like I want to meet my wife the old-fashioned way, like how Woody Allen met Soon Yi.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you were you doing anything else like creative during COVID?
No, that was it. And you know what? I like right before. I mean, it was like end of February 2020. I was also like ran an hour, like what I felt I had for an hour. Which ended up becoming Apology Comeback, but at the time I called Registered Stand-Up Comedian, and it was like bad. Like it was like it didn't go well. It was a show at Union Hall, and I was just like meandering through. Like the pedophile chunk was even longer and unwieldy, and it was just like mostly that, and I didn't have all the sitting on the stool bit. Like it was a very rough draft of what the special became, and so I like did that. And I felt very miserable about it. And then I lost the stand-up competition, and then it was locked down. So I just felt like stand-up was sort of like on the... And I was like, maybe I'll never be able to do stand-up again.
Yeah.
And
I
last
think we all
things
had
I
that
did...
thought, yeah.
The last things I did were like do a show that I hated, that I thought was bad, and lose a competition. And so I kind of felt, not very... I didn't do much in the stand-up game.
So what do you think changed, or like, I mean, what do you think you changed about that hour that made it going from registered stand-up comedian to Apology Comeback Special? Like what do you feel made it better?
I think so. The Twitch stream game show like taught me how to I had to write new jokes every week. It was like weekly, and I had to do my research. I did a lot of research, and you just learn a lot when you start going down the rabbit hole. Like what are some like dark, dirty things, and you're like, oh my god, this person did this. Oh, this person, and you see patterns and you learn a lot. So that kind of gave me a better perspective. It was a lot of research, and then I'd have to like write a joke in the question and then joke answers and then like form it all and then like write joke mini games and stuff. So I like did so much writing that when I came back to stand up, I think I had like a better just writing brain, just one full year of making myself like do like a boot camp style writing, comedy writing thing. And I came back like I felt like I had 2.5 new minutes and then 2.5 minutes of old stuff that I still stood by. And I just like built from that 5 minutes up.
Because I feel like kind of what, in listening to the album, what I think, and I didn't see like what your hour looked like before, but like, I think one thing I really liked about it as like an hour is that you do like the sitting on the stool thing, and that you frame like the Apology Comeback Special, where you're framing it as if it's like a one-man show of like you being like a canceled comedian that's doing this edgy, but it's, and then like within that, it's a bunch of one-liners and like silly, absurdist, dark, gross jokes. And I think that makes it work really well.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I worked hard on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it shows. And
I'm proud of it.
And so and so then Fallon.
Right. Oh yeah. So
and I think I was actually with you. I think the night before you got hired, because I remember you were on my show at Young Ethel's, and I was talking to you after and being like, "Yeah, do you like what are you up to like these days? And you're like, I might have some good news tomorrow.
Whoa.
And then you were like, I don't want to jinx it, so I'm not gonna say. And then you posted on Instagram like your like credentials passed or something. I
Oh,
was
that's
like,
amazing.
all right, I guess you
that's
got the good
fun.
news. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so it must have been May 2022.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, so I was like unemployment for
Yeah.
all of like COVID because I guess I had made enough money doing comedy that I could qualify for the art performer unemployment.
Yeah.
I honestly don't even remember how it worked.
Uh-huh.
All I knew is that I got free money and it was
Yeah.
awesome. But then like things were like back and I was really excited to do stand up. And I just like didn't really I was just like doing stand up and I don't know. I like didn't have agents. Like I lost my fired / they kind of stopped paying attention to me like right at the beginning of COVID. So I was like, okay, I don't really have agents. Let me just like try to make a go of it. I got like an acting gig. So I was like kind of like making some money. And my friends, Nick and Brad, my dear friends, we had just become friends and they were like, oh, you should try to submit for Fallon. Like this is around late 2021. Summer 2021 was amazing. It was just like everybody was excited to be back. All the shows were like packed out. It was incredible. And then like fall of 2021, they were like, hey, yeah, you should write. I met them. You should write for Fallon. You should submit. Like we can send you the stuff. And I was like, I don't know. I'm having too good of a time with like, comedy. I really fuck that shit. I don't need that shit. They're like, okay, well, whenever you're ready, whenever you want. Like, all right. And then like Omicron hit.
Yes. Oh
Remember
yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
late winter of 2021, and then like things like really shut down again. Like shows were canceled. And it was
Yeah.
just sort of like, damn, is it happening again? It didn't end up, but it was like for some reason
I
like
remember that.
it cleared out my calendar, and I just like didn't have gigs coming up, and like the unemployment had long run out, and I was like, I don't really like have a job.
Yeah.
So in like February of 2022, I like was like in a panic, like I gotta submit for Fallon. I gotta like write for the job. So I worked really hard on my packet. Like I watched a ton of his show. Funny stuff. And I did my packet. I got like friends. I got Nick and Brad like offered to like look it over for me. They did. I had like other friends. Like I really worked hard on this packet, and I sent it off, and I heard nothing back. And I was like, now I'm out of money. I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I like was just applying for jobs, and as we've discussed, I didn't go to college.
Right.
I don't really have any like marketable skills. That moving company was like, yeah, we don't really have any like work anymore, like post COVID. Like I guess, and also Piece of Cake. I think was eating their lunch, eating them for breakfast. So they're like, yeah, we don't have like any work for you. So I was like, so I applied to places. I applied to like everywhere I could, and one of the places was Madame Tussauds Wax Museum in Times Square. So I was like, I think that would be funny. And then I like got the job, and I was like, oh, now I have to work at Madame
As like a
Tussauds Wax
tour guide?
Museum. As in the gift shop. And then in this like weird little cafe that they have that is mostly just for selling slushies. And I made little wax hands. I don't know if you've ever been to Madame Tussauds.
No.
You gotta check it out. But there was wax, like kids would like dip their hands in wax and they peel it off, and it would be like a little colorful wax mold of that. They have it at like county fairs.
Yeah,
or whatever,
yeah.
Apparently. So that's what I did. And at minimum wage, just like working there and just like trying to up. And I was like,
And this is after you've been on TV
I've
multiple
done
times.
I've written for TV. I've done all. I had done.
Did you ever get recognized?
No.
Okay.
Well, because people going to Madame Tussauds.
Yeah, they don't know. They don't know.
They would never recognize me. But yeah, they. I was working there. I must have been 28, I guess,
Yeah.
like 27, 28, and all of my coworkers were like high school students.
Yeah.
Like, I was like the oldest guy by far, just a man. They were like trying to save up for like part-time. They were doing part-time work, and I was a man trying to pay my rent. And
that's not too dissimilar to my situation as a barista right now.
Sure, no, it's not too dissimilar from my situation
Yeah.
right now. I'll tell you, we can get to that if there's enough time. But it's it's hard out here. But yeah, I was working there and just kind of like, what am I gonna do? And it was going through a breakup of like a long-term relationship breakup, and just like really struggling to keep things together. And then that relationship ended. I was kind of like at a crossroads. I was like, do I keep going? Is this a sign? Is me working at Madame Tussauds a sign that I should quit comedy? Because I'm like,
rock bottom.
I've tried and I failed, and this is where I am. And I kind of decided, I'm like, you know what? Time to just rebuild from the ground up. I remember having a lunch with my friends, both named Chris, and they were like, they're like, how you doing? I'm like, you know what? Feeling good. Like I found like inner peace. I'm just gonna like put my head down, work as much as I can there. I'm gonna find like a new place. Like I was like, also my taxes. Oh yeah, that was a big thing. For my taxes, they weren't taking taxes out of my unemployment for some reason. So I owed so much in
Oh my
taxes.
God.
So I was like in crippling debt. I had just lost like my roommate, you know, and I was like, it was a tough situation. So I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna put my head down and just be in debt for a while, but I'm gonna work, you know, do comedy, road gigs as much as I can,
Yeah.
you know, self-booked stuff, and just like really build up my material and try. And they're like, it sounds like you're gonna be all right. Something good is gonna come your way. And like literally like the next week, they were like, hey, are you still interested in writing for Fallon? I was like, yeah. They're like, hey, could you make it work with your stand-up schedule? I'm like, yeah, I can try and figure that out.
Yeah, let me check the dates. Yeah.
And then I got hired from there, and that was the most money I'd ever made. Most of it went to just paying off all my debts that I had and like finding a new apartment and all that. But yeah, that was Fallon. 6 months there.
How did that end?
They said get out of here. So it's like for that kind of job, they do 13-week cycles before you're like renewed or whatever. So I was, after the end of 13 weeks, I was renewed for another. But then at the end of that one, they were like, I saw like a month left, and they were like, yeah, just leave. Like, you don't even want the free, you're still going to pay me the rest of the month, and you don't even want my jokes. That's how bad I'm doing here. Like,
were you getting a lot of jokes on air?
There are monologue writers and there are sketch writers, and I was hired as a sketch writer. And I think I would have been a much better monologue writer.
Yeah, that's surprising because
it was just the position that was open. And that's also I think one that has a high turnover rate. The sketch writer. So the first week I got like one on immediately. Like I got an idea on, and that was like big. That was like, you got something on. It was like based on a news story, something about like some band had like their floors at their concert had one of those things where if you like step on it, it makes energy. So all of the fans like dancing around and stepping on it made energy to like power the concert. So it was like going green at the concert, you know? Does that make sense? That was like the story.
Yeah.
And then mine was like, my pitch was that other bands were also doing that, like doing things to be better. Like Huba Stank promised to decrease their amount of stank by 70% or something like that. And like Korn is changing their name to Quinoa, just like some silly band puns. And so that got on. Jimmy liked that. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to do just fine here. And then I never got an idea on like ever again. Yeah.
Wow. And because I know I've heard like Anthony Jeselnik talk about his time writing there in interviews, and just being that you guys have similarly like dark styles. It's an odd fit for that show.
I think also there was a difference between Late Night and Tonight Show.
Yeah.
He wrote for the first season of Late Night, and I wrote for the whatever season of the Tonight Show.
What's the difference?
It used to be on at a different hour. It used to not have the same pressure that he feels now, I think. It's a different time slot, different show, different energy, and it's become a machine as opposed to an experiment.
Yeah, I went to a taping. Like a friend from out of town had got like won the lottery.
Oh yeah.
We took edibles, which was it was a very strange experience.
That's amazing.
It was just, you know, watching like Jimmy Fallon and Martin Short.
Sure.
And watching The Roots, one of my favorite bands, and just seeing some of the most talented people alive being bored at work. Like, that's what it felt like. And it didn't feel like I was watching a show. It felt like I was like an extra and just in the role of audience. And I'm like, that's why they're giving away tickets. We're extras. Like, we're not getting free tickets to a show. We're doing unpaid labor.
Absolutely. That's right. Yeah.
What was, so, but other than,
what time is it?
it's 2:02. So,
okay, cool.
Yeah, we can.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We got some.
Other than like not getting a lot of stuff on, what was your experience working there?
I mean, it was chill. Like, so that's the thing. I didn't get bits on, but I got plenty of jokes on. Like, anytime there's they don't have like a tally of like which jokes you're getting. They're just like, what's your name next to an idea? And all my ideas didn't mesh well. But like the monologue team, like I sent some jokes there, and like I really like that. I sent way less than like because it wasn't my job. They were just
Yeah.
like, if you want to pitch in, you have nothing to do. I'm like,
Right.
sure. And I would get like a pretty good, like I would submit like a page, like 10 jokes, and I would get like a few. Like I was doing, I knew how to write jokes. Like I'm not stubbornly trying to make pedophile jokes work at that place. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I know how to write all kinds of jokes. I know how to write good quality jokes that are clean. And so I would do well there, but just the idea thing, I was free a lot of the time, as soon as if there weren't any jokes to pitch. Very funny people worked there. I think all have been fired since, all but 2 of the 12. Yeah, it was chill. The money was amazing.
Yeah.
Money was incredible.
How much does it pay if I can ask?
$4,000 a week.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
That's
But, before
bad.
taxes, before
Still,
manager fees, but still.
Yeah. And because I mean, when you start comedy, at least for me, like the whole goal is like, how can I make this a career? And then it's like, once you get an opportunity like that, then you're finally in a position where you're like, it's like I have a day job, but that day job is comedy. And so it's so what are you doing now? Now you're just stand up?
So after that, so I knew kind of immediately as soon as I got hired there, I'm like, I'm going to get fired from here.
Yeah.
I don't know when. I hope it'll be a long time from now so I
Right.
can make as much money as I possibly can, but I'm going to get fired from here. So I told my manager, like, I need touring agents for as soon as I get fired, I want to go on the road. And he was like, okay. I set up a meeting with these touring agents. After the meeting was already set, I got fired the week before I had the meeting with them.
Oh my God.
So it was like, I mean, I timed
Kind
it
of perfect timing.
like
Yeah,
I knew what I was doing a little bit. But then it was like, they were like, okay, we'll set you up for gigs like starting in like 4, 5, 6 months from now. I'm like, that's like a long ways away, but okay, should be fine. I have some savings. I'll get my wallet. I'm like, kind of like a lot of it went to other things. I ended up staying in that apartment instead of like finding a cheaper one.
Yeah.
So now I was just like paying like double rent, like what in a place in East Village. Anyway, so all of that was like kind of like I made it to the touring, and then touring became my job. And then I had like a amount of savings that I spent to go to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, because that cost like 10 to 15 grand or something to go there.
Yeah.
And you hope to get some of the money back. I got some of it back, definitely not all of it. And then after that I like had more touring, and then the special came out, and then that was like I was touring to make rent and make a living. And as soon as I stopped, I kind of thought like somebody would buy the special or I would get like another job. And then I like didn't really. And I just like stopped going on the road. I stopped making money. And I just kind of like, it was a tough time. I mean, I was like, fine. I was like, something will come along. And then before I knew it, I'm like, nothing came along. Wow. So I was looking for jobs again.
And and what about This Fool?
This Fool, that was a good time.
Great show.
Really great show.
Such a funny show. It's over.
And then it got canceled. Before season 3. Yeah.
And you would have been back.
I would have been back. God. Chris told me my plot line. It was funny. My character got to be crazy after in season 3.
Yeah. It's such a shame. I mean, it kind of feels like, I mean, there's definitely been, I think, a shift in the entertainment industry and in comedy, especially, like, even from the time, like, not just from the time that, like, when we were, like, kids wanting to be comics, but I think even from, like, when we started to now, where it's, like, shows don't stay on the air as long, and I really feel like, obviously I don't know this because I wasn't, doing stand-up or at that time, but I feel like it kind of seemed to me like you get a late-night writing job or you get a TV set, and it's like, this is your job now. Yes. Like that was always how it seemed to me. It's like, I think Shane Torres even had like a joke about like his Conan set being like, that's like an athlete being drafted. And I'm like, well, then you shouldn't have to look for another job. So it's just, it's so weird to be, I'm like, imagine for you to be in that position where you are so funny and so talented and have had these like milestones in your career already, to still be at this place of like, trying to figure out what the next thing is.
Totally. I mean, the industry is different. I will also take I will take credit in my own problems because I was spending stupid, and I could have done a lot of things different. I could have been better at saving. Edinburgh was like an investment, and I kind of got the money back. You know, it's like things like that. I'm like, okay, that makes, you look back on it and you're like, oh, how did the math work out on this? I should have kept touring after taping the special.
Yeah.
That was a mistake.
So you said that was the biggest mistake.
That was a big mistake. I just thought, and here's the thing also, it's like in a different world, I think somebody would have bought that special.
Mm-hmm.
I think if it was the time where things were like, if CISO was still around, if
Yeah.
if all these places when they were buying specials, if that was still a thing, I think that was like a quality enough special
Yeah.
that somebody would have bought. But we're just in a different era, and I just don't have that following
Yeah.
that people are that interested. So it's like, okay, nobody's gonna buy it. But that would have been a nice little payday, and then that could like kind of float you to the next thing. Also, like after Edinburgh, I kind of thought I would get a job again. That was when the writer's strike was happening. So it's like it's just
Okay.
industry wise, I think people still recovering from like post COVID stuff.
Yeah.
Like it is a different landscape now. And
I think it really
I was
is,
a little
yeah.
ill prepared for it.
A lot of it is like the post-COVID
Yeah.
thing.
But yeah, no, it's. I mean, and I've talked about it with so many of my friends and so many people that it's like we're all like, yeah, well, things are weird now, right? Like it's like, why isn't? I think just they're making so many different things as opposed to like just funneling all their stuff into like a more select amount of things. So if everybody's doing something, then there's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it can. All the things on the fringes can get lost as
Yes.
opposed to before where it's like, even if you're on the fringe of like this like big pipeline, you're like, well, you're still in the pipeline.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
There's also, there's not really a Comedy Central anymore, which I think has
Yeah.
really hurt, you
Yeah.
know, the landscape of being a comedian coming up is that like, cause when I, started stand up, the things that I was like looking as like, these are like my big goals. Like two of them just don't exist anymore, which was Conan and
Yeah.
Comedy Central. And it's like, well, those are just not options. And obviously, other things have like come in their place. Like now, like there's Don't Tell comedy and other stuff. But it's like, it's just changed. So what's next for you?
Moving to LA.
Yeah. So tell me what's the idea behind that?
I just think it's time for a change. I tried New York, and in the past year, I didn't really like get anywhere. Of just like
Yeah.
kind of like after taping my special. I taped it April of last year, and nothing really came along. I auditioned for SNL, still waiting to hear back.
You auditioned again?
No.
Oh.
Just the one
Just-
time in
just-
2017. But they don't tell you didn't get it. That's the
Right.
thing. It's like
it's like
can you
that's so funny. It's
give me a
like a
no?
regular job
Yeah.
where like they just
Yeah.
call you to tell you didn't get it.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
they call you to tell you did get it, but you're still just waiting.
Yeah. And I wrote for the Tonight Show, so those are kind of like some of the big New
Yeah.
York jobs. Yeah, kind of like ready for a change. I've been here like 8.5 years. My girlfriend went to school over there. We have lots of friends over. My friends Nick and Brad, who were working at
Yeah.
the Tonight Show. They moved back to LA this past summer as our friends Business Casual, the sketch group.
Yeah, yeah.
Business Cash.
They're very funny.
They also moved last year. So we're like, okay, maybe we should consider the fact Eliza's brother and his girlfriend live over there. Like, I have family over on the West Coast.
Right.
It just feels like it's time, and maybe try my hand at something different, and I don't know, build up a social media thing, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think
I think this
Oh.
new hour is pretty good though.
yeah.
I'm working on
You
it.
had a full new hour?
It's like 40 minutes.
Well, look, I'm excited to see whatever you do next, and I mean that. I'm not just saying that as the host of a podcast that you're on. I'm saying that
Appreciate that.
very
I'm
genuinely.
excited to see what happens.
Yeah.
Who the fuck knows?
Yeah, but I think
don't got
that's
no
a
clue.
fun place to be in. Of
I
like,
think so. Yeah.
because that's the place you're in when you start comedy.
Yes.
Of like,
Yes.
who the fuck knows what's gonna happen?
I've been thinking a lot about starting comedy, why I got into it, and trying to like reevaluate. Like I said, I started going to like this to the BCC open mic.
Oh, you've been going to the BCC
I've
open
been going
mic?
to the BCC open mic with my friend Ken. So Eliza, my girlfriend, works
Yeah,
there
yeah,
as a tech.
I remember she worked some of my shows when
That's
I was doing
right.
shows there. Yeah.
And so she was like working this like open mic for a while. She's like, you should come. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe I will. And then finally I was talking with my friend Kent, and he was like, I'm thinking about getting back into it. I'm like, you know what? I should. I have new jokes that I shouldn't just shove into a show before saying them. For the first time ever.
Yeah.
I should try to say some jokes at a mic where I can just get a feel for them, get a general vibe to see if they're funny at all. Let's start going to this mic, like, and seeing from a different. I hadn't been to a mic in years.
Right.
Seeing like going back and just like waiting there. I'm way more nervous for an open mic than I am for a show. Like the more people at a show, the better for me. Like the more excited I am. I am not nervous at all.
Well, because
but I'm terrified about going up in front of like a dozen, 20 stand-ups. Like
because your jokes are gonna work in front of a real comedy audience for the most part.
For the most part, yeah.
Let me see how much. Okay, it's about time to wrap up. I just want to say, like, for the listener, I don't know if you remember this. When you were on my show at Young Ethel's, I had a very bad set, bombed. There was a heckler that, like, basically was like, your set sucked. And then and you were just very nice to me and, like, came out. You were like, hey, that person sucks. Like, don't worry about it. And it just meant a lot. So I just wanted to thank you on the podcast for that, man. Like,
I remember that. What did they? Do you remember what they said or what the deal was?
It was like a long, like too long of a laugh to the point where it felt fake, and I was like, all right. And then they were like, sorry, that's just the only funny thing you've said. And then I was like, I was like at the end of my set already, so I was just like, all right, whatever. And like, but yeah, so it just, it meant a lot. And especially because I think, I was trying some newer, edgier jokes in a room where it was not working. And so I think that it was just cool how you came up to me and I think went out of your way to do that. It made me feel good.
Yeah, of course. I get it. I think it's important to be out there looking out for each other.
Yeah. So I like to ask people when we wrap up, I like to ask if you have anything that you recommend people watch, listen to, any comedy that you're enjoying right now?
None.
Okay.
No, let me think. Oh, damn. I watched something recently that I really love. Carmen Christopher's special.
I haven't watched the special yet, but he's very funny.
It's on YouTube now. It's like on Veeps or whatever before. But now it's on YouTube. I watched the first half. And I loved it, and I had to stop it because I was like, I think Eliza's gonna want to watch this.
Yeah.
And then I told her, I was like, it's really funny. She was like, I want to watch it. So we've just been like busy with like packing and stuff.
Yeah.
So haven't had time to sit down, but I'm excited that it was making me laugh so hard. Joe Mandy's special was really funny on Hulu.
Another one I need to watch.
But I have so many. I want to watch Lisa's. I haven't seen Lisa Traeger's Netflix special. I haven't seen that one yet. There's a lot that I need to catch up on, but Carmen Christopher's was really funny, and Joe Mandy's too.
All right, cool. I like both of them, so I'll have to check them out. And then anything
What
you
about
want?
you? Do you have any good ones that you've been watching?
Jim Gaffigan's new special I thought was great.
Good.
I thought he's somebody that I've always really liked, and that was when I watched with my parents, which like
same. Over the holidays.
He's the perfect comedian to watch with your parents.
My parents put it on, and I was like, okay, well, I guess let's see. I liked Jim Gaffigan when I was. I had his the DVD King Baby. I think it was.
Yeah,
the white cover.
Yeah.
I had that on DVD. They put it on, and I don't think I would have put it on by my own volition.
Yeah.
I think it was because I was with my family, and they were like, "Oh, we like Jim Gaffigan." I'm like, "Okay," and I was laughing. I'm like, "This is good professional comedy." Some jokes were like a little hacky, but it's like, but he's doing them so well, and he's
so good at.
He
and
has
it's
lots
like,
of funny stuff.
He has like just 5 topics that he covers in every special. Where it's like, I'm gonna talk about food, being fat, my family, being Catholic, and then like traveling because I'm a comedian, I travel, and it's so. And then even now, he's not even fat, but he was still. Like,
he talks about
and the fact that he talks about doing whatever drug that he was doing to get skinny. Like I thought that was great. And I would also
Jim Gaffigan special.
I'd also
with
watch
your parents.
watch Martin Urbano's apology comeback special
with your parents.
With your parents. Thanks for doing this, man.
Thanks
really
for
appreciate it.
having me.
Anything you want to plug?
Just my special. Just please, if you could give it another view, a like, comment, subscribe. No, wait, you don't need to actually. It's not on my channel.
Whose channel?
I don't care. 800-pound gorilla.
Oh, okay.
You do what you want on the subscribe. Just like it, comment it, and just click it as many times as possible. Just leave it on a public computer.
All right, one more question before we go. Is 800 pounds heavy for a gorilla, or is that normal? I don't, because I know that's just the name of the label. But
that's
I'm like,
a good question. I looked it up. It's a term.
It's a term.
It's a term, not just a label name. I think it's like I think it's like a big gorilla.
It's a big gorilla.
Is my understanding.
Because I'm like,
It's a
I don't
big
know how much.
gorilla.
I don't know how much gorilla is what.
Yeah, it's a gorilla before taking Ozempic. No,
It's Jim Gaffigan before his last
it's Jim Gaffigan's on. Damn, 800-pound gorilla. What is this? Jim Gaffigan over here?
All right, Martin Urbano.
Mm,
We're like 800-pound polar bear. All right, that's it.
come on.